Uh-huh.
Hello everyone, I'm going to present today about Kenya and Nigeria. These two countries, despite of being two wealthy countries and having the most important oil reserves in the world, are stagnated due to high corruption rates and also militias and inter-ethnical issues uh, that had that had been uh, that had been a religion issue in the country. I'm going to start with Nigeria. Nigeria is a Western African country that comprises at least 250 ethnical groups. The Hausas Fulanis in the north, the Yorubas in the west, and the Igbos in the east. And these three groups are the most important ethnical groups in this country. In terms of geography, Nigeria is located in the north by the Niger River, Chad and Cameroon to the west, and Benin to the east, but also the Gulf of Guinea to the south and the Atlantic Ocean. The history of Nigeria. The history of Nigeria starts with the Nok culture that settled in Jos Plateau and the Benue River. This civilization was important because uh, they worked in iron melting, but also they made stylized figures in the country. And then the slave trading with the North African and Arab started with the Fulanis. The Fulanis were or are Muslims because they still live there, and they formed the Sokoto Caliphate. The Sokoto Caliphate was intended to introduce the Muslim religion into this country. Then the Portuguese, Dutch, and British sailors arrived in the country. The Portuguese sailors built the Port Lagos, which is one of the most important ports in that country, because it served as a slave trade to transport the slaves and the goods as well. Then the British the British abolished the slave trade in this West African country, and Nigeria became a crown colony. Then, in 1904, the exploration of oil reserves started. And the first shipment in Nigeria, or the first shipment of Nigeria crude oil exports arrived at Rotterdam on March the 8th in 1958. Then Nnamdi Azikiwe was the first president in Nigeria in 1958. Then the next president was Abubakar Balewa. The most important aspect of these governments was that they were military governments, and the high corruption rates during all these governments was seen during this time. Then the Biafran Civil War in the 1960s until 1970s brought as a consequence the separation of different ethnical groups, which tried to be part of the society as well as the major ethnical groups. Then Obasanjo became also president of Nigeria, Boko Haram, and then Obasanjo was re-elected again. The consequences of these military governments were the high corruption rates, as I said before, and also brought the stagnation of the economy of the country. People are very poor in Nigeria. Well, the economy of Nigeria is based basically on the production of coffee. The agricultural activities is also important. The oil production is important as well, and the products derived from this oil production. The currency of Nigeria is the naira. In terms of politics, Nigeria is a federal republic, and the president is elected every 4 years. The actual president, or recently the president of Nigeria, is Obasanjo. The national symbols. In terms of national symbols, we can see that the flag of Nigeria is green, white, and green. It is divided in 3 bands with green, white, and green, which the green represents the agricultural field in Nigeria and the fertility. White represents peace and unity, as the coat of arms, which represents unity and faith. Regarding education, religion and education, most people in Nigeria are Christians and Muslims, and because of this, there has been through the history of Nigeria several clashes between this group, between the north and the south, because in the north people are Christian and in the south of Nigeria they are Muslims. The language of instruction in Nigeria are Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa. But the language of instruction in colleges is English. In terms of literature, the oral tradition is very important for Nigerian people. Actually, people started writing in the 1900s. And the most important representatives in terms of literature are Mrs. Chimamanda Adichie, that she has won several literature prizes, and Professor Walt Soyinka, which has won several prizes as well. Their basic themes in their stories are based in immigration, on immigration, and the consequences of the settlement and colonization. Now, I'm going to talk about Kenya. Kenya is an Eastern African country. It is located in the north by Ethiopia, to the south by Tanzania, to the west by Somalia, and to the east by Uganda. In terms of history, the first civilization settled in Kenya were or was the Cushitic speaking tribes. Okay? And then the Bantu speaking tribes. Then the Portuguese settlers arrived there. And then in 1901, the British built a railroad. This was an important event in the history of Kenya, because the construction of this railroad brought some advancement brought some advancement to the country. Then the Mau Mau activists, which was a ethnical group, they fought for Kikuyus' rights because there were several plantations, or well, several fields in Nigeria that were controlled by black people and black population. And Kikuyus were the labor force in those plantations. That's the reason why the Mau Mau activists started a war and started killing and protesting for the right to control those lands. Then, in the 1960s, the first elections were held in Kenya, and in 1963, Kenya is finally independent from Great Britain. The economy of Kenya is based on the production of coffee, as we can see, tea. Okay, the currency of the country is the Kenyan shilling, and also the production of oil and the oil reserves. All right, according to, the national symbols of Kenya, the national symbols, the coat of arms, contain two lions, which are a symbol of protection and supporting a traditional East African shield. And the flag is represented, or is divided in three stripes. A black stripe, a red stripe, and a green stripe. They represent the KANU party, which was the most important political party at that moment that enhanced the independence of Kenya. The three equal stripes of black, red, and green. Black stands for indigenous Kenyan people, red, the blood spread in the independence, and green represents the natural resources of the country. In terms of language, around 2,000 languages are spoken in Kenya, but the most important ones are English and Swahili. English is the official language, and Swahili is the second most important language spoken in Kenya. In terms of religion and education, we have that this is a varied group. We have Protestants, Christians, Muslims, and English serves as the language of education. In terms of religion and education, in terms of literature, the most important representatives are Sir Jomo Kenyatta and David Mailu. Okay? In their stories, they speak about immigration and how Kenyan people have suffered through the process of immigration and settlement. The conclusion of this presentation is that even the decolonization era and the proclamation of the independence in these two countries, the situation became worse. First, in Nigeria, after their independence, these military governments actually destroyed the economy of the country. Okay, destroyed the economy of the country, and it was stagnated because of the high corruption rates. And it's important for us as EFL learners to understand that how English serves as a lingua franca in two countries which are multi-ethnical, and they speak a different language which is totally far from the English language. Well, that's all for today. Thank you very much for seeing my video, and see you next time.